All right, welcome everyone. So we're going to talk orthographic mapping. I know the other mini sessions I've done have been really simple, like, oh yeah, I could do that tomorrow. This one might be a little bit more meaty. So this is going to be really quick overview of orthographic mapping. We're going to watch a short 5-minute video of a lesson. And then if you want more information, I can send that out because I've actually done an hour-long session on this topic. But just keep in mind, there's whole books written about these. There are people who spend their whole careers talking about teaching high frequency words. So this is definitely an overview. So when we talk about these terms, what in the world is orthography? While this is not a new term, you will find the word orthography in Marie Clay's works that were written in the 70s and 80s. You will also find it in Fountas and Pinnell. You will find it no matter what, which educational professional you're talking about. But it's come up recently because we've learned this new way of taking this process of being able to store and match sounds to letters that don't match in order to read a new word. So orthography is just conventional spelling, the way a word looks rather than how it sounds. So when we think about a child who knows a word, knowing can look very different depending on how it's being introduced and when. When something is just fresh, you just taught it, but it's easily confused, these are new or only just known. And this applies not just with teaching and learning, but literally everything you've ever done in your whole entire life. So at first, when we learn something, this is where the decoding level is. Look at how shallow that is. A child who still has to go add to figure out had does not really know it in any variant form. So we need to give kids multiple exposures to words, and they have to go through this decoding process before they will ever get down to something being orthographically mapped. That means I know it no matter what font it's in, whether it's capital letters starting or it's lowercase letters. How many of our kids are thrown off by the word is when it starts a sentence? They go eyes because they think it's the word I with an S at the end. It's not orthographically mapped. It is not solidly and completely known in any form. So research shows that in order to recognize a word by sight, it has to be stored in our working memory, and that is the process of orthographic mapping. It starts by sounding those words out, attending to both the sound and the spelling. You are literally mapping it into your memory, and once it's in your memory, it's that deep level of known that you can access at any time. This is from a great book from Wiley Blevins. So where decoding is taking print and then matching the sounds to it, orthographic mapping is the opposite. It is, I want to write a word. I want to write the word laugh, laugh. Now, we have to know this word inside and out in order to be able to know how that word is supposed to look and match the sounds to the spelling of that word. So 3 parts of the brain have to be activated in order for us to really deeply know it. Think about those kids where it's like, okay, we just did that word. Like we literally just did the in one of my groups. But guess what? Yesterday they didn't know the. We did that 2 days ago. And today they may not know the again. And if the starts with a capital letter, they're probably not going to know it because it looks different from when it started with a lowercase letter. And maybe they know it when it's the first word in a sentence in a book, but they have no idea that it's still the when it's later in the sentence. This is because it is not solidly known. So we have to incorporate those sounds and meaning with the letters. So that's the thinking behind orthographic mapping. This is what orthographic mapping is. And I will tell you, when I first started reading about orthographic mapping, I was like, heck to the no, that I'm not putting a word you cannot sound out in sound boxes. That is against everything I think. And then I calmed down a little bit, and then I did a little bit more research, and I've started using this in actual lessons. And what it does is it highlights the parts that are expected and the parts that are not. So where we used to tell kids, and maybe sometimes we occasionally still do, you just have to memorize this word, we now change it and go, you just need to memorize this part. So laugh is a hateful word, right? The first grade teachers, second grade teachers have had to teach laugh. It's really awful because other than this letter and that letter, they have to ignore everything else. There's really not a lot to go on. So this process and procedure maps l, a, and highlights for the kids. Okay, we expected that. Okay, look, this is kind of weird. That should be a hunk and chunk making a different sound, but look, this is gonna help you, right? This is the crazy part. Don't ask me why they decided the GH is gonna make an F sound. I have no clue. That's the part we have to remember when we see this word. So this is what you have as your handout. This takes a whole to part to whole process. Notice that the beginning section is orally interacting with the word. The lower section is visually interacting with the word. So the first thing you do is you activate meaning. You say the word you're going to teach aloud. Today we're going to learn the word laugh. That joke made me laugh. What does your laugh sound like? Just really quick, you're activating the meaning part of the brain so they know where to file this and to grab meaning to attach to this word. Now we're going to activate the sound. So I'm taking whole word meaning. Now I'm going to break it into its sounds. Listen to this word, af. Can you say it with me? Say it really slowly. Af. How many sounds do you hear? Now let me show you what it looks like. This is not a lengthy process. I go through this part in probably a minute, but it's important. We have to activate that phonological awareness first before we show them what the word looks like. So then you're gonna say, I'm gonna show you the letters that go with that word. You draw the boxes that match the sounds. And then you are having them watch while you write it in the boxes. And what you should expect to see, what I often see, is the kids go, what? Huh? Like, that can't be right. Because if you've already done sound box work, the sounds match what I see, and this is being crazy. So you want to have that uh-oh feeling of that was not right. You're right, there's a tricky part. So we're shifting our thinking from the whole word being tricky to look at this tricky part. Then you can ask students to write it. You can do this easily, whole group on the carpet. They can write it in the air, they can write it on their hand, or you can do dry erase boards, markers. You can have them with a piece of paper. You can do it in small group. You could do it one-on-one. And then basically what you're doing is write it, erase, write it again, erase, write it again. Having that over-learning of words. Now make sure when you do this that kids do not just, if you're doing was, they go a row of W's. Literally a child did this yesterday when we were working on was. That will not help them learn this word as a unit. It will just accomplish a task, which is not what we want them to do. I want them to learn W-A-S, W-A-S. I want them going in that sequence, so watch for that. And then you're going to again pull it back to meaning. If you grabbed this from a text, maybe you guys read that sentence again. Now they see it with new eyes, eyes that now know that word. So we're gonna watch a little bit of a lesson. I am gonna scoot in a little bit. This is during a shared read. I'm gonna scoot right to about.
So you gotta go. You gotta make them.
Alrighty, friends, we are going to be learning how to spell a new word. Listen carefully to our new word. Our new word is who. Who is at the door? Who growls at the milk carrier? Who is our new word? Say the word who. Alright, I want you to see how many sounds you hear in the word who. Ready? Ooh. Can you do it with me? Ooh. Ooh, interesting. You hear two sounds. Eli's saying something about the number 3. You already knew something about this one, don't you? How it looks. That's so two sounds. And then gives two boxes.
I'm intentionally using a lighter color
Much
for the
lower.
boxes, a darker color for the print.
Watch again. Ooh, oh my goodness. There's something tricky in this word. It does have 3 letters and only 2 sounds. What else was tricky in this word? There's a letter I see, but I don't hear.
They weren't giving it to me. They had no idea what was tricky about the word, so I'm providing it.
I heard this guy though. Ooh. Oh my goodness, that part's a little bit tricky too, but it does remind me of another word I know. And that you know also.
I'm linking this to known.
Who? Two.
Do would be another word to work with in this group.
This word works like this word. Ooh. Ooh. Can you read it with me? Ready? Say who. You say it. Ready? Go. Ooh. Very nice job. Friends, I have some dry erase boards for you, little tiny ones.
So now we're going to go down to the tactile where they're going to write it, erase, write it, erase.
We are going to practice writing who. Remember that it starts with a silent letter. A letter we see but do not hear.
Also notice my pace is super slow. I am working at an intervention first grade level, but this whole process will take 5 minutes total. So it feels like, oh my gosh, you're giving them so much time. Yes, I am, because I don't want to have a stressed brain trying to learn something I need them to know. I'm trying to, with my voice, with my actions, and with the speed, communicate, you can do this, here's how we do it, and make it feel easy.
Whole letter H for that sound, and you have the O at the end for the OO part. Very nice job. Use your eraser. Erase your word.
Notice that I have now removed it from the board. It was there for probably their first write or 2, and now it's gone. So I'm kind of transitioning to now you need to know this word.
All right, let's write it one more time. Ooh, who. Remember that. Letter we see but do not hear comes first. And then we have the sound. And it ends like ooh and two. All right, show me what you got. Very nice job. Excellent job, Ethan. Way to go. Eli, I see your word. Ethan wrote it 2 times just right. Very nice job. Erase it with me.
Now I'm going to go back to the shared reading text which had who in it, and I'm going to go back to draw meaning from the text.
Help me find our new word. Do you see it? Come show it to me. There it is.
So it's very much like a oral language. Now watch how it's written. And that's really the shift with learning this orthographic mapping procedure. That's the part that's different, is this piece right here. We've pretty much always done something like this. Look at what it looks like, look at the tricky part, things like that. But it's activating those sounds orally, tapping into that phonological awareness piece first. Now in this particular group, I wanted to create a few echoes across the lesson. So every book I pulled for the next 2 weeks had who in it. It was in our writing. And on free write days, I would give them the word who and say, who can put the word who in their writing today? See if you can take on the challenge. And they would, and they did. And they put it in talking boxes, and they had characters asking each other questions. So came up over and over and over again, and I didn't move on until I felt like it was known. That's the other shift, is the next day I didn't introduce a new word. I stuck with this one for a while, but I linked it to who, and I linked it to do. So tapping into those high frequency words that have similar sound and similar part are what you want to do. So for example, I would do who, to, and do, but I would not do to, go, and so, because they have the same spelling, you know that, but a child approaches from sound first. So these are not good to put together. Here and where, you know they're spelled the same way, but from a child, they come at it from sound first. They don't sound anything alike. So instead, do there and where, and teach these individually separately. Think about attaching my and by together, and then for your higher readers, when you're introducing the question word why, link it back to my. This isn't a tricky sound Y is making. This is a normal sound Y makes at the end of some words. Sky, fly, shy. Look at all of these. We want to start attaching these together because that then attaches it in their brain. And what is linked together is a little bit stronger of a bond than what's learned individually. So that is the quick and dirty.
Makes sense. Thank you very much. Thank
If you have any questions, just reach out. I will send a link to my longer one, but it is long. It goes a lot more in depth, but you're welcome to watch it if it's interesting for you, if you want to know more. So
Thank you. Thank you.
thank you very much.
So,
You can just push stop, yeah.
Do
I'll
you
edit